All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Sip of Knowledge with Marty Duffy, Liz Rhoades, and Lou Bryson, plus this week's special guest, Marianne Eaves, who I will let your host give a more formal introduction to in just a moment. Real quick before I turn things over, I'm Will Hookinga from Savvy.co. Just want to point out a few ways that you can interact with your host, with their guests throughout the presentation. So to your right, you will see a chat box. Feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And then at the bottom of the screen, there is a button that says Ask a Question. So if at any point a question pops in your mind that you would like our host to ask Marianne, feel free to enter it in there. I'll be keeping an eye on that and passing your questions along to them. And last but not least, feel free to invite your friends to join us. There's a share button at the top that makes that easy. But with all that said, enough from me. Marty, Liz, Lou, I will turn things over to the three of you now.
Thank you, Will. You are like a golden shaft of light in the darkness. So thank you.
Classic reference.
Yeah. Watch Monty Python and you'll understand what that was. Monty Python, Liz, that was a comedy group from Britain back in the 70s.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Surprise. Hi, everyone. I'm Martin Duffy. For 14 years, I was a senior master of whiskey for Diageo before I was cast out for practicing Satanism. And
That's
then,
going to be one of those shows.
Yeah. And then I was, for 18 glorious months, national brand ambassador for Benedictine and B&B.
Oh, those are the good months.
Hot tea and lemon, really good, cures COVID. And then I'm what else? Oh, for 8 years I was the co-producer of the Chicago Independent Spirit Expo. For the last 6 years, I have been the sole brand representative in North America and soon maybe South America for Glencairn Crystal. I think you know what that is, man. Hello. So take it away, Lizard.
Cool. Well, Marty, as usual, thanks for that that introduction. Always great to hear about that Benedictine plug.
Still getting residual checks. Delicious.
I'm actually really excited about having Marianne on the show this week, and a few reasons, right? Millennial. Female, STEM. I love it. All the things that I'm about. So, Marianne, it's really great to have you on the show. I'm really excited to kind of catch up and just kind of see sort of the ventures that you have going on and what you have on your plate. And really excited to dig into that and just, use this as a platform to kind of elevate what you have going on. And I think that's fantastic. So, hey, everyone, I'm Liz Rhoades, technical distiller and spirit consultant. Have just over a decade of experience in alcoholic beverage, spanning across a couple different products. So beer, rum, vodka, but my particular expertise is in whiskey, which we'll be, of course, talking about on the show today, I'm sure, in some fashion. I spent most of my career at Diageo, but now currently founder and principal at Spirit Consulting. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that in the About the Host section, so scroll below, there's actually a link to my website. So thanks everyone for joining. Marianne, super excited to have you on. So over to Lou.
What a kiss ass.
Thank you, Liz.
Take it away.
My name is Lou Bryson. I'm a whiskey writer. I've been at that since 1995. I was the managing editor of Whiskey Advocate magazine for about 20 years. My latest book, Whiskey Masterclass. Read it, buy it, love it. And the old classic tasting whiskey. Very nice. Thank you, Marty. I'm also currently a senior drinks writer for the Daily Beast. I just this morning finished up a piece on the sweet spot for bourbon as far as aging, which was a lot of fun. Got to talk to a lot of people in the industry. I'm speaking of people in the industry. Today I am drinking Cream of Kentucky, the new batch from Jim Rutledge, 13-year-old double rich. So that's what I got. That's who I am. That's Marty. Take it away. Hi, Marianne.
Thank you, Lewis. Thank you very much, Lewis. Where did I put my? There they are. Notes. Yeah. So, hey, welcome everybody to this week's episode of Sip of Knowledge. Drink deep from the well. I think Leopold and Loeb said that. This week, very special guest, and as you can see, Little Lizard is very, very excited, as we all are. If you know anything about the especially the bourbon scene for the last decade, you know this woman. She was a master taster. Started off as a master taster, but then became a Brown-Forman protege before controversially leaving and becoming the master distiller. I don't know. You might have been the youngest master distiller.
I love that.
I do this when I say my name. Marty Duffy.
He's so-called Marty Duffy.
Yeah, so-called. I go by many monikers. Before she became master distiller over at Castle Key Distillery. But then, and this was 2015, then just recently in the last about a year ago, two big changes. One, she left Castle Key to start her own consultancy business, but also became a mom to a small bear, if you
small bear.
Little tiny bear. And she had a big thing going on this year. Even with all that going on, you put together a Peyton Manning's new whiskey. So lots going on. Plus, we got to get into what you're doing now, and especially where you're doing it, because that's crazy.
Oh yeah, the whole eastbound to down thing. Right?
Yeah, exactly. The whole Rockford Files thing. Hey, so another reference Liz won't get.
I've seen the Rockford Files.
Oh my God!
Not while I'm drinking.
All right. We're going to do a whole episode of what Liz knows and doesn't know from the last 40 years. Marianne,
sure, let's be clear.
Thanks for taking time to be with us. Could you give both us and everybody out there a bit of a rundown of how you got to where you are now, but where you started in that little arc?
Yeah, so just clear up all the bullshit that Marty threw in there, was what he's saying.
Sure.
like the shell game, just going to put it all in order.
Well, I just have to say I'm super stoked to be on the show. I really appreciate the invitation, and Liz, I'm just as excited to get to hang out with you and chat about all the nerdy things. So thank you.
Eve, I guess.
So to tell you guys, everybody, listeners and folks here on the show with me, I was born in Tennessee, grew up in Kentucky, moved to Kentucky when I was still a little baby. So we first moved to Louisville, and then I moved out to Oldham County. And Oldham County is a dry county, so I grew up not really seeing alcohol. My parents didn't drink, as far as I knew, around the house. Mom would order like a rum and Coke occasionally when we went out to dinner. So I didn't grow up in the bourbon culture. A lot of people, they think automatically if you're from Kentucky, you should know some things about bourbon, but I was absolutely clueless. On my dad's suggestion, I ended up going to school for chemical engineering, and I thought I was going to go for like renewable energy, biodiesel, something like that, and then just wound up finding and getting selected for this amazing internship at Brown-Forman. So I started, that was my first big girl job, was working as a process research and development engineer for Brown-Forman. So where
actually was that? I'm sorry, like physically.
Yeah, in Louisville.
It was in Louisville. Okay. Nice.
Mhm.
Sorry, I always wondered where Brown-Forman did that stuff. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
right there on the corporate campus. It used
Okay.
to be the old bottling building before they moved bottling into where shipping was. And, everything changed and grew. But I mean, the stories there from folks who had been there a million years, because everybody stays at Brown-Forman for their entire career because it's
Not
just an incredible company.
everybody.
Okay, not everybody.
Not everybody.
a lot of people, not this person, but it was really really amazing, working in research and development, supporting global production across all of their portfolio. So working predominantly on whiskey because, Jack Daniels is paying all the bills, but a lot in other spirits too, and doing experimental things, which is what captured me, I think, in the industry. I was kind of thinking, Brown-Forman, I'll get an internship there. It'll be a great builder, a resume builder, and then I'll do what I really want to do, which is kind of, save the world and work on renewable energy. And then I just found out it's an amazing industry. The folks are incredible. The projects are fun. I can drink what I make, so it's fairly safe for a chemical engineer.
Yeah.
As opposed to mixing up acids and stuff.
Right.
That's a good point. I never really thought about that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, and as you mentioned, I was master taster at Brown-Forman, worked my way up to, protege to Chris Morris, and then made the decision to take my career back in my own hands and left to go start up Castle Key. And then eventually, moved on from Castle Key after getting it started again after nearly half a century of being defunct. And yeah. All the things I could just keep going, but
well, no. So, Marianne, so you're working at Brown-Forman, huge company, international company. You're, whatever whiskey that you were working on would have been, internationally known already, or you could have created
even
something.
the small ones are big, right?
Yeah. So then when Castle Key came around, did they come courting you, or did you see this little opportunity coming by? I'm jumping ship onto that little Castle Key barge.
No, the interesting thing is, I worked for Brown-Forman for 6 years, and a lot of the time I spent at Woodford, which is just a few miles down the road from Castle Key, and I had no idea it existed. Like, I think maybe a year before I even met the guys, there was some mutterings like, "Oh, it's a couple lawyers that don't know anything about the Castle or Old Taylor."
It's such a major road. Everybody drives by there all the time.
Yeah, but it is
Millville, a major metropolitan city.
See, I thought if Batman owned a distillery, that's where it'd be. Because
I got to tell you, the first time I went there, I thought Google Maps was pranking me. I honestly got, I'm like, there's someone in California just messing with my ass because there's no way there's anything down here. Sorry, had to get that out.
Yeah, so where in Kentucky is it located? Was Castle Key? Because I'm not
technically in Frankfort.
Okay.
It's amazing how close it is to Frankfort, and you'd never know.
Yeah. It's like between Frankfort. It's on the way from Louisville to Frankfort, is it not?
I think it's on the other side of Frankfort, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of on the other side of Frankfort.
It's on the outside.
Yeah, you actually get off the Frankfort exit and then kind of
service down there. Right?
No, that was the thing.
So you were at Castle Key for what? Did you leave last year, 2019?
I left in yes, was it 2019? It feels like it's already been 5 years as we're into 2020, so I've just completely lost track of time.
What is it, June?
For most people.
Yeah.
But so here you're giving the keys to a brand new, like a Mercedes bus, if there's such thing. You get in. It's a brand new, and
no,
still,
it's not. No, it's not. It's like a 1950s Mercedes bus that has new tires.
Right. Okay. But it's still brand new. It's brand new to her. It's brand new. It's a brand new experience. True. And you're in charge, man. You're you're it. You could kill people, have people killed, and nobody could say anything. You can put them in a barrel somewhere, and then you just, I mean,
Which I'm sure is what you were thinking of when you took the job.
Yeah, I was like, barrels and dead bodies. Yes.
Sorry,
I believe
I shouldn't encourage him.
I think they put Admiral Nelson in a big barrel of rum when he died, right? Okay, well, whatever.
Yes.
Anyways, let's go back to this. So, what?
Yeah, let's go back.
What was it? Because 4 years, and then you go, you know what? I want to go do something else already. I mean, did you feel like you did everything you could, or did you feel like there was going to be a ceiling coming up that you thought,
Well, it was interesting, when I made the decision to leave Brown-Forman, to go to Castle Key, it was really because I felt my role shifting. They were pulling me more and more away from production into marketing, which is, it is fun, and I definitely enjoy an enjoyable part of what I was doing for Brown-Forman, but my passion is the innovation, the creativity, the problem solving, all the critical thinking and all that sort of stuff actually being in the production facilities. So they would sit me down about every week and be like, all right, Marianne, do you want to be a master taster, or do you want to be a R&D engineer? And I was like, can I just keep doing both? So I was working essentially 2 full-time jobs when Wes Murray reached out to me through LinkedIn to see if I wanted to come say hi. I mean, it wasn't like, we want to offer you a job right now. I think they wanted to meet me first. But he invited me to come out to the distillery, and in his words, I blew him off. So for a few months, I was just too busy to go out there and see him. And then the first time I did, I'm one of those nerds that likes to drive by places that I have appointments before the appointment. So I'm not late when it comes up.
Yeah,
so I was like, let's go see this place. Somebody told me it was like a rundown log cabin, so I wasn't expecting much. And then I show up and there's like a freaking castle. I feel like I've been lied to, kind of. Like, I've been at Brown-Forman just down the road for 6 years, and nobody told me there was a freaking castle down here. So we walked around the site, and I would say, a 1950s Mercedes with new tires is very generous. It was, the roofs were collapsing, the windows were all broken. It really was being overtaken by nature. There was some equipment in there that was possible to use, but the majority of it, I mean, it was so old and seized, and all the piping was completely rusting through, and there would have been absolutely no way I would have used any of the piping. But I think my favorite part was the being in there when it was at its roughest, and envisioning what it could be, and making all the plans, and buying the equipment, and working with the electricians, working with the pipe fitters, and actually bringing it back to life. I loved being in the laboratory day and night, and distilling these different experimental batches with different recipes, and what did Colonel Taylor make, and what can I do to try and differentiate the future for Castle Key from its history, while also honoring that. So it was a lot of fun discovery, a tremendous amount of hard work and long days. I will always appreciate the opportunity that I had, and the trust that they put in me to be the one that made all those decisions. And they really never questioned, like, this is the grain that you want to use? Yeah, this is the grain I want to use. This is the control package that you want to install in the place? Yes, these are the controls that I need. Like,
pretty much like a total rebuild, or how much from a structural standpoint were you able to salvage? I mean, just from a safety perspective.
Mostly just big vessels. So the fermentation vats, there were some other tanks in there. The cooker vessels themselves were usable. Actually, the agitator in the cooker for the first year worked, and then it promptly died, and we had to get Vendome in there to redo the thing, which was tough because it was squished underneath the floor where the scale hoppers are. So, it was a big pain to do it after the fact, after we were already running. But, we evolved and learned and grew, and it was a really amazing opportunity to, it was a what was it, 6-foot diameter column still that they were using.
Okay.
And
it was laying out in the grass. I parked next to it. I couldn't believe the size of that thing.
Yeah, we pulled it out. It was still in the still house. So yanked that thing out because we were thinking, oh, there's no way we're ever gonna get to this size again. But they, currently they have a 36-inch still, a 24-inch still, and they're using every single one of those fermenters, even the 22,000 gallon fermenter. So yeah, after we started running about 3 months in, we're like, okay, we probably need more fermentation space. So we went from 6 fermenters to 9 fermenters. And then another 3 months goes by, and we're like, okay, actually, this distillery that we thought was going to last us 5 years is definitely not going to even get us through the opportunities in year 2. So we started building a second distillery in the original distillery that we were still running. So it was,
when I was down there, I think it was 2 years ago, I came down there with Paul Davidson from Glencairn, and I think the young gent who took us around said that they had already invested about $35 million into the place, and that there was still more to be done. Like he was showing us some other remnants of structures that had to be rebuilt, and we're going to do this. And yes, I go, oh my God, it's going to take decades to make that money back, isn't it? I mean,
well, with the contract
I don't know, man. You
production
start doing
opportunity,
Kentucky weddings, and that brings the money in pretty quick.
They do weddings. Yeah, I don't know that that's really paying the bills. But.
A distiller is much like a captain of a ship. She can perform ceremonies. Marius.
I got invited to a couple of those weddings. I didn't actually go to them, but it was sweet to have an invitation.
That's nice.
Martin, are you ordained? Isn't that something in your wheelhouse?
What?
Ordained?
Right? Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm a reverend. I am open for.
I think you're irreverent.
Wedding.
What you're looking for.
I am available for weddings, even virtual ones if you want. Little cheddar cheese.
Oh boy.
But that's true. Yeah, Reverend, the most Reverend Martin Duffy. I should put that on my title.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now, Castle Key, you're looking in your back mirror now because it's behind you. You're driving forward, and you're driving
literally
in a freaking RV across the country and doing distilling stuff. I mean, tell us more about that, because that I think I was mentioned earlier. I think that's a great TV show. Like Smokey and the Bear, another reference that you won't know, Liz, but about a trucker with his bear. This is a trucker. I mean, well, not a trucker, but an RV distiller and her still. Oh, but your baby boy was dressed as a bear, so maybe it could be the distiller.
Okay, tell us what you're up to right now, Marianne.
That's a better question.
Yeah. I'll just rewind a little bit. So I left Castle Key, and I decided that I wanted to do consulting. It took me a while to actually start the business because there was some complexity with the arrangement at Castle Key, since I was an part owner, still am a little bit of a part owner. But had always wanted to get into different types of spirits. So I'd been working in solely, pretty much just Kentucky bourbon for 10 years. I mean, I worked for Brown-Forman, so I got to work on some little projects doing other things, other liqueurs and vodka and some tequila projects, actually a few tequila projects. But I really was focusing primarily on whiskey. So I thought this was going to be, this incredible opportunity to get out and explore the world and find, learn new things, up my skill set as a distiller. So my first project collaboration was a brandy project with this woman, Lindsay Hoops, in Oakville, California. I actually met her a couple weeks before I decided to leave Castle Key, and she was talking about the 2017 wildfires and how they had affected her Cabernet crop, and that she felt like there might be an opportunity to distill it and see what happens. So we've been working on that, and it's super exciting because I think it's the start of a brand new category, smoked brandy.
Brandy.
Yeah, I like the idea. And should be a bumper crop this past year, huh?
Yeah, there's going to be more smoke-affected wine for sure. So there was a brandy project, and then I got contacted by a ton of people. Joe Schmo Moonshine, who was looking for a master distiller, and I was like, I really am loving the flexibility and freedom that I have right now to kind of select who I work with. I really like not being tied to one brand, and I said no a lot in that first. It's been about 6 months, I think, maybe even a little bit more than that, and actually got some interesting projects starting to come my way. There's one project I'm working on 4 whiskey projects right now, and the brandy and a rum project. Yeah, so I've got a lot on my plate, a lot of exciting stuff into the future here. The rum I'm really excited about too, because I had not made rum. We're starting off with a source product, so it's going to be a blended source product, and then I actually get to figure out what I want to do for their proprietary recipes. So that's what I'm even more excited about. I'm like, sure, I can blend some rum for you, but you got to let me actually make you a recipe.
Well, here's a question for both you and Liz, since you both are, in fact, you're kind of competitors. I'm just throwing that out there.
Plenty of room.
Yeah, that's right. When you
Competition.
go work for a distillery, we have your contract to come in, and I know time must vary, but how much time do you kind of allot to go in there? I mean, obviously you're troubleshooting, but would you stay a week? Do you stay a month? Do and then Marianne, in your case, where you do want to keep on roaming, do you put limitations on it? Say, I'm here for 2 weeks tops, and I'm out of here.
The folks that I've chosen to work with so far have been it's not so much like troubleshooting necessarily. I'm going in on projects where I'm helping them to optimize processes and look at their products in a different way. So trying to go back to my R&D roots, where it's more product development, process optimization type of opportunities. So with a couple distilleries, I'm like, all right, I can actually do everything from the road. Just send me all of your production documentation. Like, I need to get on some monthly calls with your distillers, and we'll work through this stuff. So maybe 4 months of that, and I can get them put back together typically.
Yeah.
So are people? Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
I wanted to ask you this too. Are people typically coming to you guys when there's a problem to be solved, or when they're starting up, or is it just whatever? I mean, is there one thing that's predominant?
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, all across the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like being a plumber. People call you when they want something done, but they also call you when they screwed something up.
Troubleshooting, the whole idea of getting started. Could you help me?
I feel like I want to build a bathroom. I've thought about it a lot. I think I want there to be a shower, probably a bathtub.
Everything's shaped up.
No,
The
no.
bathtub is actually a mash tun, and the toilet is like the bottom half of a still. I mean, everything's going to be very still themed in those washrooms of yours.
It's a lot of you don't know what you don't know. I think, and that's like a common theme. But it, for me at least, it really. I mean, it depends, right? Like, are you a startup? Or are you already an established brand? And I think the needs, it's all about fit for purpose. And I think the needs in each one of those camps can be different in terms of, right, startup mentality is not optimization mentality, right? Like, and I know, Marianne, you can attest to that. So it's the answer is yes, because it's all about throwing on what cap are you going to pull down today? What hat are you going to wear today?
Well, can you guys, either of you ladies, when you're brought in, say you both worked for the big guys, right? And so I'm usually thinking the big guys, they have more money to throw around, but at the same time, they, from my experience with Diageo, it always seemed like they're looking to bring things in, cut waste, try to maximize as much. Do you get a lot of that where someone says, hey, you know what? We're making good stuff, but it's taking a lot of effort, a lot of time. Can you help us
optimize?
Yeah, optimize. Exactly the word I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Standardization and optimization, those are two big, I feel like, big wheelhouses.
What was the first one?
Standardization and optimization. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which are related, but also very different.
You guys. Big words.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times folks will reach out to me and they're like, all right, everything is maxed out. We are getting ready to grow. Things are getting ready to change. Like one distillery reached out to me as they had just purchased a larger still setup, and that meant that they could bring in whole grain rather than using this like super sec, like already pre-ground kind of Monsanto junk. So I was like, your flavor profile is going to change. There's a lot of things that you should be looking at, not just what kind of mill do we need to buy. Like, let me talk through some of these things with you, because there's going to be more adjustments to the way that you're doing things than I think that you may realize. So yeah, like Liz says, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. From a QA versus QC too. I think as people grow, it's this, more in the startup or the smaller, it's like you get what you get. But I think the as people grow, the QA conversation becomes more important as well. I mean, that dovetails I think to your situation that you just mentioned.
Yeah, setting up the sensory panels and actually, standardizing, as you said, the technical analysis that they're doing on things, and making sure that consistency is starting to evolve.
So, Marianne, walk us through how this works. Working out of an RV, where you could be like one of those nuclear missile trucks where you're constantly moving around, no one knows where you're at, hiding in large forests. If you go work for a distillery, are you parking in their parking lot and just kind of camping out for a week, or do you have to go find a KOA? How do you work this out? I mean,
spectacular.
Well, I mean, it just seems, because it's not like it's just you. You got your husband, you got your child.
Yeah.
You got to take in the account that maybe they don't want to stay in the parking lot of a distillery for 2 weeks. Now, how does it all work? How do you work it out?
Well, the circus life is in constant motion.
Right.
So one of the necessities of getting a mobile laboratory is because Kevin is constantly moving forward. You know, he just did his first socially distanced circus event, and it went really well. So he's, you know, moving forward on that idea. So we're going to Texas next, then down to Florida. So essentially, you know, the family goes where the circus is. And then, you know, if I have an opportunity to travel somewhere to do some work, sometimes he'll come with me. So far, he and the baby have come along for those little expeditions. And in the case of my Napa client, we just stayed at the vineyard in Kentucky just recently. I still have a home in Lexington, so we stayed at my house. But yeah, once I have the mobile laboratory, it's going to have, you know, a tiny little bed and a bathroom in there, so I can like pull off the road and sleep for a night. And then when I get to a distillery, sure, I'll park the mobile laboratory in the parking lot, and then I'll probably stay in a hotel or something like that.
Mobile laboratory. Let's talk about that.
Let's get into that a bit.
Are you talking about, like, is this a semi, or is this like a beer truck, or
is it like a little one of those little cool airstreams that you're maybe throwing behind you?
My first vision for this was one of those Sprinter vans and an Airstream. This is what, you know,
Wow.
early when Kevin and I were hanging out. I hadn't decided, you know, whether we were gonna really like go all in, and I was gonna move in with him and do the circus thing. So I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be awesome? You know, I could travel around as I wanted to with this Sprinter van and the Airstream converted into a laboratory, live in the van, work out of the Airstream, and things just evolved. I got pregnant, so things were looking different, and I moved in with Kevin in his RV. The previous RV was considerably smaller, so we just kind of grew together as our family grew. And then just recently, you know, I in the past couple months started thinking, well, this mobile laboratory probably really needs to happen because things are ramping up for me. His circus is getting back up and going, so I can't really like drag him around with me different places. So I'm gonna have to be mobile with our life. And it just so happens that there's a Freightliner box truck that he used to use for his circus equipment that is not being used anymore. Yeah, so the box truck is actually being dropped off at the place who's going to be converting it this Friday. So really actually happening now.
Yeah. What sort of capabilities are you looking to put in?
Well, you know, I had this big vision that it was going to be, you know, something akin to the R&D laboratory at Brown-Forman, and then I got a little more realistic. Because, you know, there's limited space, there's that, but then there's also like the worry of road vibration and that sort of thing. I can't have all the, you know, $100,000 pieces of equipment that are just going to be like down the road. So, you know, and I've been talking to people about like gyroscoping platforms and that sort of thing that, you know, and all that costs money. So I don't know, you know, the future.
Tub of Jello, sit on there, it'll be fine.
Tub of Jello.
Marianne, you could have if you fill up a barrel right now, with some new make, and then you age it in all 50 states and see how it. Oh my God! I can taste.
This is the part of the show where Barney comes up with a great idea.
I'm throwing it. I'm giving it to you, free, no money. Well, maybe
worth every penny.
Just an idea.
Yeah, I bet it's a little bit because I mean, just reflecting too. I mean, because I think probably our timelines are sort of similar, right? Like reflecting on the past year, and it's sort of walking into a situation in 2020 alone has been like building a business in 2020 is a death and change. Like that's just what it is. But I bet there's a little bit of like, okay, walking into a situation is like, this is what I want in terms of the lab. And it's a little bit of learning what's fit for purpose as you're learning more about your clients and learning more about where the gaps are in our industry. So I'm sure like I can relate to the vision of, oh, this is what this is going to look like when I have, this or what have you. So that's awesome that you have this opportunity to kind of, now that you've had some time to kind of learn more about, where the gaps are and how you could use this lab to service your clients. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about it. Even though it's going to be more simple equipment and mostly just like benchtop space to do blending and those sort of activities. I do think it will evolve as I progress through different clients and opportunities. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I was saying yesterday in our tech check, I was like, also totally relatable because I live in a New York City apartment. I get it.
Which your RV is probably bigger than her apartment.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that's amazing. Again, I still think it'd make a great TV show. Here you're married to a circus performer. You're a distiller. And
the baby. Don't forget the little bear.
The little bear.
And a baby in an RV traveling the country, distilling and tightrope walking. I mean, come on.
That's a good question. So, being around, the Stark life, have you picked up any skills?
Any skills? Not.
No, that's
yet.
episode 12 every year of the show. Yeah. They switch.
Can you balance a beaker on your finger or anything like that?
I keep thinking like I need to stretch more because everybody is so flexible and I can hardly touch my toes. I'm like, I'm just really not impressive in any aspect of circus life.
Yeah, let the SEAL trainer distill whiskey and see what happens. Don't sell yourself short.
Well, okay, so the funny thing, I was doing a little photo shoot in the tent when we were going to do our announcement that Andy was coming, and the lyra, that hoop, the aerial hoop, was down, and the photographer was like, well, why don't you try to like sit on that and we'll do a couple cute photos. And I go over to the thing and try and sit on it. I'm like, this is like the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen in my entire life, or I've ever felt in my entire life. I'm like, we can do one photo and then I'm done.
I actually used to do lyra, so I can.
Oh yeah,
yeah. This is really uncomfortable.
It's super uncomfortable, but the performers make it look like it's just this like
cloud. Smile.
Yeah.
Damn. Amazing. They're
I
really
watched a
incredible.
little documentary about the flying Walendas. Yeah. I'm a guy who doesn't like going up more than 3 flights of stairs. So let alone getting up on a high wire or anything else. Not me.
Yeah, seriously, just stand on the platform.
Yeah.
A lot of upper body, tons, shoulders.
Like
lots
me.
of shoulders. Yeah.
A lot of people think I should be an acrobat. A lot of upper body.
Marty's aerial bod.
I got too much upper body. That's my problem.
So we have a few questions. Should we dig into maybe some?
Yeah. There's a couple of good ones. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question, Marianne, I love Castle Key vodka. Will the bourbon be a recipe too? When does that finally come out? So I'm assuming you had probably a large hand in that. So you want to talk about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Jesse. I definitely developed the whiskey recipes. They're still making the recipes that I created. So anything that comes out there is based on something that I made in that, for those first couple of years before we got the stills going. The bourbon mash bill, there's 2 different mash bills. There's a rye based and a wheat based. There's 2 different yeast strains, so essentially 4 different bourbon recipes, and then also 2 rye recipes, so 1 mash bill, 2 yeast strains. So they have a lot of opportunity. I was really excited to do some unique blending and create different profiles. So now they have the opportunity. They have a whole world of flavor profiles in that warehouse that they can decide to release however they choose. But I'm really proud of the recipes that I created for them. And if you love the vodka, and of course Jesse knows this, it's based from the bourbon new distillate. So taken up to vodka quality. The gin is using the rye whiskey new distillate, taken up to vodka quality, and then redistilled through the botanicals. So yeah, I'm really proud of all the spirits that I created for them.
Marianne, what's your gin like? I love gin.
It's interesting. You know, we labeled it as a London dry, but it's actually probably more of a botanical style. I mean, the juniper is definitely present. It's all herbs that can be grown in Kentucky. So chamomile, lemon verbena, ginger, angelica, coriander. There's some other ones in there. Juniper, of course.
See, I like that. I always thought I've seen some gins where they from small distilleries where they say, "Oh, now we import the botanicals from all over the world." I'm like, now you're competing against the big guys that way. Why not make them a little more, give it a little more terre noir, have a little more, bring the locale.
Such a tough, category. It's very competitive. I mean,
yeah. Well, everyone's doing them, and not everyone does them well. Lou, remember the one distillery we went to, and we weren't sure they gave us gin.
I know.
Oh wow.
We thought it was maybe vodka that someone spilled some gin into.
So it's very neutral. I think a lot of distillers kind of fall into that because they're like, people don't really like gin. Maybe we'll just make it super citrusy and they'll want to drink it. So I feel like a lot of people are doing something very light and sometimes citrusy.
See, this is what I think more people should be making aquavit. Because nobody knows what it's supposed to taste like. You can make any damn thing you want.
And because the United States has such a huge Scandinavian population.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, about
education.
I can't wait to get that. It tastes like caraway and dill. Hot damn.
I do like that. You know what? You ever have Kumel? Marianne,
actually, I love aquavit. I've got like 6 bottles of it.
Make Kumel. Kumel is a very underappreciated, I guess, I don't know if it's called a liqueur, digestive. Was originally created back in like the 1600s to help suppress gas.
A lot of caraway in it, is there?
Yeah.
I loved it. I discovered it in Ireland and drank a couple of bottles.
What all is in that? Is that a brand or a style?
Well, it's a style. Kumel, it's basically a caraway liqueur. Made primarily in Germany, but you can still find a number of brands over here. It's really good. Anyways, I liked it. Anyways, also too, as far as the gin, I think a lot of distilleries are gin shy, not gun shy, but gin shy.
Oh, nice.
So many of them think they're the first ones making what they call American style gin, which I always see as a vodka drinker's gin. I love this gin because it tastes a lot like my vodka. It's
great. Bruce commented.
Bruce, I feel you, man, but when I say nobody, what I mean is the market. I mean, we all know what aquavit tastes like, and you're a good man for drinking it. Sorry, Bruce said he knows what aquavit tastes like. Cool.
Bruce.
Sorry.
Bruce.
So there's another question that came up. Also, while we're on the topic of Bruce. Bruce. Do you still do any consulting with Castle and Key in addition to your clients since you're still a minority owner?
Whoa.
Yeah, so I don't work with Castle and Key on their products. However, one of the clients that I developed a recipe for while I was working at Castle and Key has re-engaged me since I've left Castle and Key. So I am working on a project with juice that was produced at Castle and Key. It's a really unique recipe, white corn, white wheat, that I actually haven't really seen on the market before, but it's really exciting. It's still young, it's coming up on 3 years, so that's something that folks might see out in the world in 2022. But it's another really great team and an exciting project. So not directly with Castle Key, but one of the clients that I was working with while I was working for Castle Key.
Right. Okay. On a third party manufacturing sort of standpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to ask you about going back to Castle Key for a second. One of the things that struck me about that facility was that enormous warehouse, that big, long brick warehouse. What was the thought? What were those people thinking when they first built that? Because that's enormous. I mean, it's long. It has to be almost like at least half a block long, or
almost 2 football fields.
Yeah.
Is it really almost 2 football? Oh, Jesus Christ! It is really, really long. And I'm thinking, you get a barrel out, and that's
a lot of work.
That's only half the work. Now you got to get it out of the warehouse. It's like, wow.
Yeah, some of the guys that worked for National Distillers, like a big group of former National Distillers employees, came out to take a tour with me. Of course, it wasn't like I wasn't showing them anything that they hadn't seen before, aside from our new piping and stuff. But we took them over to the warehouse, and one of the guys told me that warehouse had a nickname. They called it the Man Eater because it took a tremendous amount of work, to take a barrel in and out of that thing.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like it was built more for, hey, let's build the longest brick barrel.
I think he was showing off. Right. Yeah, Colonel Taylor was just showing off.
He seemed like that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, forget about function. Who needs function?
Let's keep going until it hits the road.
Let's do something that will kill men. That will just kill our workers.
I don't know. It seems like there's something to the topography, too, that I mean, like you're getting the most out of that, because it's kind of a tortured stretch of.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
not a lot of open space in that little site. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 113 acres, but it is long and it's kind of nestled down in this little valley. So they're going to make the most of it.
I wanted to ask you about when Marty was talking about the warehouse. I started thinking, what kind of airflow is down there?
Yeah.
It stayed pretty moist in that warehouse, but as we were tasting it. Did I say the M word? Sorry, guys. As we were tasting, as we were tasting the products even when they were really young, I think there's something special about the environment down there. I heard Jim Beam has some of their warehousing not too far, just right down the road there, that they keep some of their most precious Knob Creek barrels in those warehouses because they really like the way that it ages. Like they've gone to the extent of sending the whole, sensory team down there on a field trip. They're like, we got to figure this out because if we could replicate it, why not? Why wouldn't we do that? So, yeah, something special about that little valley for sure.
And were you doing contract distilling there as well?
They do a lot of contract distilling.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So something else I don't think we talked about quite yet that you've got on your plate from a personal project standpoint. So you've got the lab, but you've just launched another program, right? The tasting program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is actually what's going to be funding the mobile laboratory is the Eaves lined tasting kit, and I really like the idea of taking people kind of along with me. I threw it out on Instagram. I was like, maybe people would want to drink whatever I make at this laboratory as it's going around the country. So I just asked people like, what would you pay for an educational kind of palate broadening experience, and I got enough positive feedback that I was like, all right, maybe this could be real. So the idea behind it is 4 seasonal releases. There's 2 different levels, the apprentice level and the aficionado level, which are kind of, just fun names. It doesn't necessarily tie to the type of folk who should buy it.
Right, marketing. We get
it's
it.
Marketing, because originally I was like the core box and the VIP box, and I was like, that's kind of boring. Let's see if we can do something better. But the aficionado has like all the bells and whistles. So it's the 2 blends per season plus 2 single barrels plus 2 different samples of water that are paired with one of the single barrels. You get a little water dropper. 2 of the black Glencairn glasses. And then and then a whole bunch of just nerdy details. So I'm going to be providing like GC analysis and all these different just process details and tying that to the flavor of the sample.
Right, not just data for data, but actually, yeah.
But now, how are you going to put these together? Not out of the RV, because that would take up a lot of your space there. It doesn't look like Harris alone could take up the bedroom you have there. So, I mean, where do you do this? Where do you have another facility somewhere, and you have little minions, little yellow minions putting?
I don't have any minions. I think it'll probably be mostly me actually assembling the things and fulfilling the shipping and that sort of stuff. But it's kind of bootstrapping this first year. I'm putting most of the proceeds into the mobile laboratory. I'm going to be creating a lot of content in the laboratory over the year. So it's kind of like, it's an opportunity to learn from me what I've experienced over the past decade in the industry, and also just, let's hang out for a year.
Wow, that is amazing that both you and Liz, I mean, Liz's been in the biz for just over 10 years. I mean, the two of you guys are like little mirrors of each other, kind of, like we're seeing right there. That's really fun. I mean, that's it. You two should team up. Liz, go out and buy an RV. Follow Marianne.
Okay. I mean, I'm doing a lot of driving right now. I'm in a Mini, so I don't know.
Get the Airstream. Get the Airstream.
I don't think you can tow much with a Mini.
I mean,
you can't tell.
I pushed the limits of what can fit in the Mini, but probably.
Teach your boyfriend to do magic tricks or something that can work at the circus. Get an Airstream, tag it onto the back of the RV, and there you got it. Boom.
Bada bing, boom. All joking aside, if an opportunity presents, we'd love.
Heck yeah.
Or you have Liz as your minion. She can pack all that stuff.
Most overqualified minion on the planet.
So there are actually a couple more questions that are coming in, and we're kind of coming up on time. So another question, from Ed Lamb, regarding Sweeten's Co. Did you get a chance to work directly with Peyton and Co.? And if so, what was that like? Can you tell us about any future collaborations, etc.?
I am still working with Sweeten, so we're working on the next release right now. That first release was really fun for me. They reached out to me when I was pregnant with Andy. I don't know if they realized that I was pregnant, but yeah, I knew that I could work with them still. I had the process and I knew I could do it safely. So we got together. They asked me about, what I do and how much it costs and how long it takes and all that kind of stuff. And they told me about their product and their brand. And at that point, it was this golf course only in Tennessee. It was the Sweetens Cove. And it's a beautiful kind of hidden gem that they saved from kind of being lost and forgotten about. And that whole story, the whole feeling of saving something that was so special to golf made me feel like it was kind of an opportunity to get into a project with the soul like Castle and Key a little bit. So they already had this kind of mysterious cult following with the golf course. Their little tagline is "If you know, you know," and they wanted to create a similar feeling with the bourbon. And I thought that sounded really cool. Like, I like the idea of starting smaller, building on a reputation on the quality of the product. They do have some incredible firepower in their lineup of investors, but they really, you can go to the website, you won't see a picture of Peyton Manning. Like, it's not a football shaped bottle, they're right. They are really resting on the quality and wanted to make a very premium brand with juice that lives up to it. The first article I think that folks really noticed, and it might have been the first article on it to start, was that Esquire article, and I knew that Peyton Manning was part of it, and I had met Andy Roddick and Drew Holcomb and these different amazing, celebrities. And I'm on the phone, talking to Esquire about the blending process, and they're like, "All right, hold on, Marianne. Another caller's joined. We need to get him, and then we'll come back to you." And they were like, "Hey, Peyton, how's it going? Talk to us." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just sit here and listen." But he is just an incredible promoter of all things. So I definitely understand how he gets the big bucks in being a spokesperson. But it was amazing, sitting there on the phone, and then all of a sudden Peyton Manning says, "Marianne is really the quarterback of this bourbon project." And I was like, "Oh yeah."
Can I have that in writing, please?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, "Please print that. Please print that." But it was awesome. I haven't actually gotten to meet Peyton in person. I've been on a couple Zoom calls with Cooper Manning. He's a nut. Really, really a fun group of guys. And somebody asked me recently, they're like, there must be a lot of ego. Like, these are very powerful, well-known, influential people. Like, they've got to have some opinions. And I was like, actually, they put all their trust in me. They're like, "Here's 100 barrels, Marianne. Give us something incredible." So,
well, do they have sign off on it? At least did they taste it and go, "Yeah, wait a minute. Can you tweak this a bit? Can you go another 10 yards?"
The ratio,
yeah, they wouldn't even know what to ask for. So they're like, "Everything's all you."
Right now we're at 4th and 1. Can you take this ball and really run with it? They use a lot of football metaphors.
I haven't heard a football metaphor yet.
Well, he did call you a quarterback.
Of course.
He did call you a quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, there is that one, of course.
Yeah. She's like a linebacker for the brand. Quarterback. That's big.
Okay. There are a couple more questions as we're coming up on time. Okay, Bruce.
Yeah.
You gonna ask that one or not?
Are you waiting for time to run out? Are you stalling?
So, yeah. Bruce asks, did they ever start using that Soviet-looking concrete?
Yes.
A Castle Key?
Oh.
Yeah, it's completely full. It holds about 60,000 barrels.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's full.
So yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. They installed ricking into it, so it's actually ricked in there. It was ricked originally in wood, and then somebody thought it was a clever idea to put metal ricking in there. And from what I understand, the metal ricking was having a reaction with the hoops of the barrels and actually popping the hoops, rusting them out. So they lost. What they told me was they lost about a third of the contents of that warehouse just because of that. So Jim Beam ripped out that metal ricking, and I think that they were palletized in there for a little while with Jim Beam, but Castle Key put the wooden ricking back in.
Hey, Marianne, how do you feel about that? Palletizing as opposed to laying down. I've heard, different people. I know Veach, Mr. Michael Veach, kind of a...
The Veach, they call him?
The Veach.
He's kind of a close friend of mine. He said that. I think he's gone on record as saying he thinks it's best that.
Is that more from a historical standpoint, or is that his?
I'm sorry. What?
I imagine his angle is all historic.
Yeah.
Historic, but I think he is also. I think he had another explanation. I'll find it for you.
There's a safety implication, I feel like, too. But Marianne, go ahead.
Well, definitely you got to make sure that you have sturdy pallets, because the weight of all those barrels can definitely crush a pallet, and there's a huge safety concern if you've got 6 pallets, 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 high, 6 barrels on a pallet, 6 or 8 or 9 high, however many you can stack. I personally, there is definitely a difference in the way that the maturation happens. The airflow around the barrel, those oxidation reactions, they just don't happen the same way. If you're willing to let the barrels age a little bit longer, or you have a certain blending process, or that's the profile that you're shooting for, that then I think there's a place for it. I mean, there's definitely huge brands that are very successful that do primarily palletized warehousing. So the consumer hasn't started screaming, it's all of a sudden turned to crap. It's still
All it takes is one guy on Facebook,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
one guy.
dude. Let's not talk about that guy.
Ugh.
Well, there was a distillery I knew of that had problems with their barrels leaking from the bung. I don't know if I told you this. I'm sure I told you guys this.
Palletized?
Yeah, they're palletized, and so
The bungs on the top.
no, and these are the bungs were on the side.
Well, that's
Oh, wow.
And
okay there.
so they asked a friend of mine who's
I can see the problem now.
from another distillery to come in, and the first thing he noticed, there was all this muslin cloth around the bung, and he goes, "Why do you have so much muslin cloth around the bung?" And he goes, "Oh, because it's leaking." And we were wondering if you know anything that we can do about it. And he goes, they're bigger bungs. Oh, they're using their bungs. They're using were too small for the. See, there's a lot of work for you ladies out there. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of people.
See, when you were saying it's what you don't know, Liz, there was actually I've heard it's not what you don't know, it's what you think you know that you don't. That's the problem. It's like, oh yeah, I know that. I'm like, no, that's wrong. Really?
You're like, well, that's interesting.
Because I have to say, as a writer, that's what trips me up all the time. The shit that I think I know.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's always the old stuff, and that's the beauty of. That's why I never think there's whiskey experts, because there's always
something new to learn.
And you go to Kentucky, talk to some guy in Kentucky about Scotch or Irish whiskey, and they'll know some stuff, but not everything. I'm thinking, why don't you know everything?
That's my employment security right there, man.
Yeah.
There's always more shit to write about.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I got two of you there. How widespread is the use of added enzymes in the industry? Because this is something people keep talking about, but nobody has an answer for.
Depends on the country.
Okay, I know that Canada uses a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean,
what's it like in bourbon?
Yeah, I think everybody basically has enzymes in their facility, whether it's part of their standard recipe or not. You have them on hand just in case you have a stuck fermenter or something.
Okay, all right. Oops. Yeah, because actually, that's what the Canadian guys told me. They're like, it was the best thing ever going to enzymes. No more stuck fermentation.
Well, what's that also? I mean, I heard once, and I don't know, this could be one of those things you're told and you have. I always heard that the added enzymes were due to the use of rye, because it really helped with rye.
Enzymes.
Well, there you go. See,
and this is why
I must have learned what I have learned. As Yoda would say. Yoda was from a series of movies called Star Wars, Liz.
They're still coming out. Come on.
Jeez.
I saw the first one only, and that was like 5 years ago.
So there you go. 5 years. It took you how many years to see Star Wars?
I've never seen E.T. Never seen it.
I have in person, which is weird. So,
one last question.
Yeah. One last question.
So last question from Jesse. What are your top 5 easy to find everyday drinking bourbons? Good one to end on.
Yeah, top 5.
We had to ask everybody this.
I'm not going to say them in any particular order. I worked for Brown-Forman for 6 years, so my palate still kind of leans to their profile. So Old Forester, any of the Old Forester products, Woodford Reserve, particularly Woodford Double Oaked is something that I really, really love. Russell's, I always love good Russell's Reserve. There's some other ones that aren't quite as easy to find, but I love Garrison Brothers. I like their more grainy profile. To me, it's just part of the essence of it. It's it doesn't make it taste young to me. It's just a different style of bourbon.
Style.
And then if I had to choose one more, what would I choose? I like New Riff. I think New Riff makes really great stuff. Yeah.
Sorry. Big, huge.
I think their stuff is great. Yeah.
Yeah. And
what
the
about
price.
You two?
Price is good.
What about you two? You, Lou, Liz, what are your top 5?
Yeah. I'll let Lou do it. You do it, Lou.
I mean, I in line with the Russell's thing. You said I'm good on 101. I drink a fair amount of 101. Evan Williams Bonded. I like that. And I'll go in on the New Riff too. I mean, I like keeping a bottle of that. I like keeping a bottle of Dickel. I know. I like keeping a bottle of Dickel around. Usually number 12.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, now that Nicole has that new Bonded.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime I can find it, I buy that stuff at that price. That's awesome. Is that 3 or 4?
That's
I think
4.
that's 4.
4. Okay, then the other one. I mean, probably no. See, I don't. The new Bakers, I'm not as wild about. I like the old Bakers, the 7-year-old. So I would probably go because I do like Beam stuff. I would probably go with a Knob Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Lizard.
So.
Excellent. We're way over time.
No, we have 4 minutes, Liz. 4 minutes. Come on, reel off.
No, you go
this.
here, but I think we should wrap up probably. But so, do we have? I think a link to your website so people could check that out for to kind of check up, but also to fund your Eaves tasting to fund the lab.
Yeah. Absolutely, that would be amazing.
For science, check it out.
Yeah, so that's everything's on your website as far as the tasting club. It's a tasting club.
It's a membership subscription kind of thing, but it's just you pay once and you join for a year. So we're signing up for the 2021 program. I'm not allowing people to sign up past December. So if you want to be in for next year, I would suggest signing up and joining sooner than later. So if you go to marianneeaves.com, you'll see as you scroll down the press release and the image of the tasting kit. If you click on that, it'll take you to the eavesblind.com website.
Yeah, links below. Check it out.
And I would use for you a theme song. How about Warren Zevon's Desperados Under the Eaves?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, put that on as you go to your website and that's the song you hear. It's a great song. It's a wonderful song.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Marianne. What's better, Liz? Did you have something else to say?
No, I was just gonna say key up for next week. Marty, do you want to take it away?
No, not you, because you're small. Go ahead.
Yeah, so come hang out with us next week as well. We've got John McKee on from Head Frame Spirits, so distilling. So really excited to have John on.
Ton of questions there.
He's amazing. So a lot of respect for that guy and what they're doing out there in Butte. So definitely come back next week.
And we're finally going to get to taste that whiskey you sent us.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's a live tasting, so we're going to track that one up.
That's a first for us, right?
Well, we did Todd, right? Like we had.
That's right. We had Todd.
Oh, that's true. We had Todd.
Yeah.
Yep.
Todd sent us a tiny little vial.
True.
John sent us a whole
a
bottle.
whole bottle.
It was a 1.75. It was hot.
No, it's not that big.
I got a Texas Jimmy.
Enormous. 3-liter bottle. This one I got.
Anyway, thank you, Marianne.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
And Marianne, this is something we probably don't say to most of our guests, but happy trails.
Thank you.
Safe travel.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.